Maneva na say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there osia dem yopo.
Now from our correspondents in court, there's a plea of mitigation to the court to actually take into consideration before ultimately rendering a decision on sentencing. But the verdict has come. Bernard Nkibo, Chairman Wontumi, he drove in there today himself, but he's not going to drive himself back because he's been found guilty of all these offenses. There is very little chance of a fine. The expectation is that he's going to be sentenced to a term of imprisonment. It could go up to 20 years. And because he's been found guilty on all the 6 counts, together with his 2 co-accused persons, Akonta Mining Company Limited and Kwame Entry, the judge will now sentence them to a term of imprisonment, and we'll get the details of that pretty shortly in terms of what exactly the decision of Justice Audrey Kokuvite will be on this matter. We know that this morning, the lawyers for Chairman Wontumi had made a last-date attempt to try and arrest this judgment. That did not happen with the application for the matters to be referred to the Supreme Court, and also an application for the proceedings to be put on hold up until at least the lawyer for Bernard Nkibo return from abroad were all not heeded to by the court, who has now considered the totality of the evidence before her, and Justice Audrey Kokuvite has found that Chairman Wontumi, Kwame Entry, who is at large, and Akonta Mining Company Limited indeed assigned mineral rights without approval, contrary to Section 14.1 and Section 99.2b of the Minerals and Mining Act, and then also facilitated illegal mining. They have been found guilty on all the counts that the state put against them, and what is left now is for Justice Audrey Kokuvite to impose a sentence. Mamisi.
Yes, Kweku, and so we are still waiting to get the very latest from the Accra High Court. As we know currently, Chairman Wontumi and his 2 accomplices have been found guilty on all 6 counts. And then we'll be going right to the Accra High Court for the very latest on that. Your shots now are scenes, live shots from the Accra High Court. What it looks like over there. We see lawyers coming out of the courtroom with their files and also chit-chatting there. Obviously about the case and also other cases in the Accra High Court, and we'll be establishing contact shortly with our correspondent there, Fatal Bayaga, to give us the very latest in that judgment. What were the details? What were the basis that the judge placed her argument? So we'll be getting all of that from the Accra High Court. Fatal Bayaga will be joining us shortly. But quickly, let's go.
This is surreal. I mean, this is the first big illegal mining case that we have. And illegal mining, both political parties agree that this is a big issue that must be dealt with. We just haven't found a way to deal with it. We have had the arrest of several persons who have always been found on the illegal mining side. What has been lacking is the arrest of the so-called bankrollers and the so-called big fishes who are behind the illegal mining fight. And Chairman Wontumi is the first of these persons that are said to be involved in this. And Chairman Wontumi and his co-accused persons have now been found guilty of all the counts that have been made against them. I'm trying to comb through the Minerals and Mining Act to be specific in terms of the punishment that Chairman Wontumi and his co-accused
Once you look for that, let's go through the counts. At least we know there's 6 counts.
There's assignment of mineral rights without approval, contrary to Section 14.1 and Section 99.2 of the Minerals and Mining Act. And then, so that is for Chairman Wontumi, for the second accused person, Kwame Entry, and then the Akonta Mining Company Limited. And then there's a purposely facilitating an unlicensed mining operation, contrary to Section 99.2 of the Minerals and Other Offences Act. And it says, a person who without license granted by the minister undertakes a small-scale mining operation, contrary to Section 1 or acts in contravention of the provisions, commits an offense and is liable to a conviction to a minimum fine of 1,000 penalty units or to a prison or to imprisonment for a term of not more than 3 years or both. That is the one having to do with facilitation. There is also the one having to do with mining itself, and I'm going to get the specifics of this provision, but it's such a big moment now for Chairman Wontumi, who now has to wait and listen to Justice Audrey Kokovite, looking at the totality of the evidence that has been provided, the plea for mitigation, and the specific term of imprisonment and fines that have been provided for under the law, and then decide how and where she wants to do it. What we can be certain about is that there will be jail terms involved in this, but the severity of it we'll get to see pretty shortly, Manisi.
And it's 20 years for the highest.
It could go up to 20 years.
It could go up to 20 years, but if the judge should consider the mitigation plea, what are we looking at?
I don't want to be in the shoes of Justice now, who will obviously have to make this determination, looking at the totality of everything that has been put before her, and the plea of mitigation also, and which wouldn't take long. Once that is done, the lawyers of the Attorney General Department, I understand that Justice Sai himself may be there, the Deputy Attorney General, who's been leading the prosecution throughout in court, he is going to be there, and he's going to also perhaps chip in whether or not they agree with the plea of mitigation, whether or not Chairman Wontumi should suffer the full brunt of the Minerals and Mining Act or not. Because we know that, this law had been there, was passed in 2016, and then it was amended in 2019, and the punishment was made stiffer, because around 2019 was when illegal mining was just causing a lot of problems. And so there was such an agreement that the punishment that were offered in the original act were not punitive enough, and that is why the law was amended in 2019 to make room for much more stiffer punishment. And so we'll get to know pretty shortly.
I'm learning that the maximum sentence is actually 25 years. 25 and the minimum is 15 years. And we're also learning that counsel for Chairman Wontumi is urging the court to temper justice with mercy, because Chairman Wontumi has shown genuine remorse and has also cooperated fully throughout the trial and is a devoted family man, and that the defense accordingly prays for the imposition of maximum sentence, because you can understand the two sides.
But this is also right? So this is Chairman Wontumi, who has maintained his innocence throughout the trial, and actually says that I did not commit the offense. And now these are the lawyers who are telling the judge
tables have turned now.
He is now shown remorse. Where is the remorse when you say that you are not guilty? And so I get that. I'm not saying this against Chairman Wontumi.
We are not in the courtroom.
I'm just saying that if you are innocent and you did not do this, and you maintain that, remorse means that you accept that you did something wrong, but you are saying that I admit that I didn't do well and I'll do better the next time. But we haven't found out with Chairman Wontumi. But again, that is his prerogative, and lawyers will always do this to try and tamper the things down. So just like the clarification has come in, a ceiling of 25 years, a minimum of 15 years. So at any chance, Chairman Wontumi, who was 49 at the time these offenses were filed, and who is 50 this year, we know that about 2-3 weeks ago, he celebrated his 50th birthday, could go for a minimum of 15 years, which will mean if he's to serve a full time in jail, he could be returning when he is 65 or 63 or less, or just a little less than that.
65.
And if the judge decides to go to 25 or 20, that takes him a lot in there. But we'll get to see how that goes, and whether or not Chairman Wontumi,
I really want to see
for mitigation will happen.
His reaction to the sentence in court as it now. I can't wait for us to speak to our legal affairs correspondent, Fatal Bayaga, who is currently in the courtroom monitoring everything that is happening in the court.
Like you said, right now. I've just seen the amendment. So what I was reading earlier on about the punishment was the 2006 law, which had just 3 and 5 years. And then there was a consensus that was not punitive enough. And then Section 99 says the person who buys or sells mineral without license, or who mines without a valid authority granted under this act, commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 10,000 penalty units, one penalty unit is 12 cedis, and not more than 15,000 penalty units, and to a term of imprisonment of not less than 15 years and not more than 25 years. So the judge has a lot of options. He can impose a fine or impose custodial sentence or both. So he can impose part of a fine and impose custodial sentence in a part. We'll get to see which option Justice Kokuvite would have made. And usually, when a judge would have gone through the motion, analyzed the evidence before him, and come to a conclusion that an accused person is guilty, she would have had an idea of the term of imprisonment or the kind of punishment she will impose. And so that would have been noted down, and then based on the plea for mitigation, whatever happens, the judge will now determine whether to go with what exactly she brought or whether or not to just reduce things a little bit. So Chairman Wontumi looking at between 15 and 25 years.
Well, we're hoping to see whether this mitigation plea has been received by a judge. And then, you know, Kweku, what I'm interested in, what these judges go through to deliver final judgment on cases. You know, people think that the judges listen to both sides and just determine that this is what's going to happen. But they work within a certain framework, you know, and then deliver these judgments. Take us through that.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is a summary trial. So if you look at the Evidence Act, the judge is a trier of facts and a trier of law. There's no jury that is determining the facts, while the judge determines just the law. So Justice Audrey Kokuvite in this matter alone, by herself, will determine the facts and the evidence and the matters of law as well. Her duty in this, being a summary trial, is to sit through and look at the admissibility of evidence and all of that, but also to weigh the evidence that has been presented by both sides and ultimately come to the conclusion of guilt or otherwise. And as we know now, Chairman Wontumi has been found guilty together with the two other co-accused persons. And so Justice Audrey Kokuvite has done her job by finding one of the, or either of the parties, and in this case, all of the parties guilty, and now we'll weigh the specifics of the sentencing. And like Mamiesi has just said, the judge has to work within the strictures of law. Almost every offense creating statute will state specifically the offense that would, the term of imprisonment, or the punishment, I should say, properly so called, that must go with the offense so charged. And so the judge has a ceiling and then the lowest level that she cannot go beyond. In this case, the judge cannot impose a sentence of beyond 25 years. If she does that, she would have exceeded her sentencing jurisdiction. She cannot also go below 15 years, okay? But it's a tricky, because if you read again, and let me read, it says, the commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 10,000 penalty units and not more than 15,000 penalty units, and to a term of imprisonment of not less than 15 years and no more than 25 years. So this is not all, this is end. So that the judge can impose a fine and must necessarily convict that person in terms of putting that person to serve a jail term. And so we'll get to see if the judge will decide that she will impose not just custodial sentence, but will impose a fine as well. Because some of the cases that have been made by people like Senor Hosea and others, the illegal mining fighters, that the people who commit these illegal mining offenses should be surcharged to actually reclaim the lands. And we know that Gold Board has already earmarked about 30 million cedis or so to go and deal with these illegal mining sites in other places, including Samre Boy, which is the heart of this case against Chairman Wontumi. So the judge can exercise the option of imposing a fine as well as custodial sentence. And Chairman Wontumi, when it comes to custodial sentence in Sawam or whatever prison, is looking at not less than 15 years, but up to 25 years. So the mitigation is to ensure that Chairman Wontumi will not spend the maximum time allowable under these offenses in jail, but the minimum, which is 15 years, or in between, but not 25 years. Interesting developments from the Accra High Court there, and as you're learning,
Chairman Wontumi and his two accomplices have been charged on all 6 counts. They are guilty. They've been found guilty. As we know of it, the lawyers are pleading and are mitigating that judgment there in.
Getting a lot of clarifications and other things. Of course, people who are. You know, when it comes the point we're making about mitigation, it's the normal course in trial. As soon as a conviction is done and the judge finds the accused persons guilty, mitigation is the normal course. And even if you will appeal, in that moment you can try and say, oh, we are being this, we are being that, to try and bring things down, and then you can still go for an appeal. And so it sort of detracts a little bit from the point I made earlier on about the lawyer's argument that Chairman Wontumi is being remorseful, because it is the standard practice. And once the person has been found guilty, his lawyers will move in and try and calm things down a little bit. And so for those of you just joining us, Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party. Amazing, why do you have a smile on your face? This is a big, people are going to jail. So Chairman Wontumi, who is also the aspiring national chairman of the New Patriotic Party, has been found guilty. What is clear that will mean that Chairman Wontumi will obviously not be able to contest in the New Patriotic Party chairmanship race, because he will be behind bars. I don't know, maybe he will. Well,
we're yet to know the decision of the judge.
Well, even before we know the decision, we know that it's taken for granted that Chairman Wontumi will spend time in jail, because if you read 99 very well, there will be a custodial sentence. It's whether it will be 15 years or 25 years in between. That is what we are looking at. But maybe Chairman Wontumi can contest while being in prison or something like that. It's happening elsewhere.
Dr. Kwame Nkrumah?
Well, Nelson Mandela and co. and Kwame Nkrumah and co. But that is all now beside the point now, because I think Chairman Wontumi,
I mean, at this moment now,
I'm not sure that is what he will be thinking about.
Yes, he's not thinking about that, right?
He will not be thinking
You're thinking about your liberty as of now.
Yeah.
Will that liberty, you know, be with you or not? And as we know now, we know that the prison officers are on standby at the High Court.
Whenever these things happen, the state will normally ensure that prison officers are on standby. And as we've seen, and Fatal gave us a very beautiful video from the court, Chairman Wontumi arrived in his vehicle, dressed in a very beautiful African cloth, and is it a batakari or something like that? And then he was walking with his assistants to court. It wasn't batakari, okay. I think, you see, it's a very beautiful yellow and blue. And kaftan. Yes, kaftan. Just walking at the High Court complex. That is Paul Grave Wachidankwa there, who is a part of his campaign team for NPP national chairman. So for those of you who are watching on TV, that is what you are seeing Chairman Wontumi walking in the court this morning, having arrived, driving his own vehicle.
With high hopes of
going back home. But it appears and is so clear now that he's been found guilty of the counts against him that he will not spend today in his home, so he will not drive his own vehicle. He will be driven to a prison facility, which the judge will determine, wherever the judge will determine, and also the specific of the custodial sentence we'll get to see in the coming minutes. By now, the mitigation plea should be over. The Attorney General will also make his input on whether or not the mitigation plea is grounded or not, and they will also make their own recommendation to the judge in terms of the sentencing, and Justice Audrey Kokuvite will make her own independent judgment. 15 years, 25 years, or in between, Justice Kokuvite will have to decide.
And as we know it, the prosecution is pushing for maximum sentence, while the defense is pushing for minimum sentence, citing that Chairman Wontumi has shown remorse, and that the judge must consider that before she makes her judgment. We're still waiting on that judgment, final judgment.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's an issue of bail pending appeal that is open to Chairman Wontumi. Obviously, if it's not an if, when he's now sentenced. I told you at the top of the show, even before I knew what Audrey Kokuvite would say, that when it comes to this matter, an appeal is almost taken for granted, particularly if you look at Chairman Wontumi and his lawyers and the various issues they've raised with the entire trial. In fact, They made a submission of no case. It was overruled by the judge who said that there was a case for Chairman Wontumi to answer. And then there's an issue of whether or not there's a constitutional matter for interpretation, whether or not the offenses are overbroad, whether they are vague. All of those issues came up, and now the lawyers for the lead lawyer for Chairman Wontumi is not even around. He wanted to move an application, he wasn't there. That application was struck out as moot and all of that. So as for Chairman Wontumi, you can bet your last peso that he's going to appeal this sentence and conviction. And then definitely once the appeal, there will be application for bail pending appeal. Fin versus the Republic is provided for under Section 96 of the Act 30. Whether or not the courts will acquiesce to that, usually it will be done first at the High Court. It may go to the Court of Appeal as well, and even to the Supreme Court if you want. So as for this matter, there is an appeal that is going to happen, but as to whether or not Chairman Wontumi will get bail pending appeal and be home, fight for his NPP national chairmanship and all of that, we'll get to see in the coming days. But also given how illegal mining is big and all of that, I think judges will be big, looking at all the signs and symptoms, to be very worried of giving bail pending appeal and all of that. So, Mami said, this is far from over. The trial itself has concluded. Chairman Wontumi will get between 15 and 25 years, and perhaps a fine of between 10,000 and 15,000 penalty units. One penalty unit is 12 cedis. If you multiply that, that is a lot of money. But I'm not sure Chairman Wontumi will be wondering about money, because I'm sure if he gets an option to pay even 10 million cedis and regain his liberty, he would take that ahead or instead of sentencing. So really fascinating decision and insights we are getting from the court. Chairman Wontumi, NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman, in the run for NPP National Chairman, having been convicted of illegal mining offenses, mining-related offenses, I should say, and now said to be sentenced. The lawyers have made a mitigation plea. The Attorney General has had his say. Justice Audrey Kokuvite will now decide. 15 and 25 years. In between, not more, not less. An option for a fine. Should have to decide all of that.
All right, you're still watching us on the special coverage of the Summer Boy Galamsey trial, which just ended in Chairman Wontumi being pronounced guilty on all 6 counts. We're still waiting to establish contact with our court correspondent on the very latest from the courts. As we know it, Justice Audrey Kokuvite has pronounced judgment and is yet to sentence those involved. We'll be right back with more. Colleague Fatal Bayaga, who's currently there to give us the very latest on this. Fatal, brief us. What is happening at the court now?
Mami, basically the court is done declaring this particular crucial judgment here this morning, and in fact the arguments in court were very interesting, but want to hear from the aide of Chairman Wontumi, who himself has always been coming to court with him almost every time. We just want to get a few words from him. He doesn't want to talk to us, but we'll try as much as possible to get a word from him at this particular point. He's been crucial supporting Wontumi in almost every time that he comes to court, but he doesn't want to engage the media. Clearly, from his demeanor, he looks quite disappointed at this particular point, knowing that his man is going to prison at the moment. But let's try and see if he would say just a few words here at the High Court after Judge Audrey Kokuvite delivered this judgment just a few minutes ago. It took more than an hour reading the judgment here. And Mami, in Criminal Code 4, the whole process began when Charles Boache, who was in court holding the brief of Atachia, and basically on his feet, moving the motion. I mean, basically explaining that they are in court today in order to informed the court about the fact that they filed a motion for a deferment of the judgment because they were seeking constitutional interpretation of some provisions of the Minerals and Mining Acts, and they say that if these provisions are not interpreted properly, it means that their client will not be sentenced fairly. But the court dismissed that particular motion. Another thing that happened in court was that the lawyer also informed the judge about the fact that Atachi is currently out of the jurisdiction, and for that reason they would pray to the courts for the ruling or for the motion to be moved to a day after Wednesday, 22nd July. But the judge simply dismissed that as well, and in her view in the court, she basically said that Atachi was in court the last time when the court sat, and in fact he initially prayed for more time for him to familiarize himself with the case, the proceedings that went on before he took over this particular case. The court granted him that particular time, and that Atachi was well aware that the court was going to deliver this judgment. He should have told the court that he wouldn't be around today, but he never did that. And in fact, according to Audrey Kokovise, an experienced lawyer, judge here at the High Court, she said if Atachi had told the court that he wouldn't be around today, then the consultations would have gone on, and in order to set an appropriate day for this particular judgment to happen, but he never did that. So it was incompetent, it was smooth lawyers or for Atachi to even write to the court and tell the court that he wouldn't be around today. So the judge simply dismissed that particular letter as well, and then went on to read the judgment. It took more than an hour basically reading this particular motion, and when she read the motion, the judgment at some point, she clearly said that based on the evidence adduced by the prosecution, Chairman Wontumi was found guilty in the charges that were slapped against him. And the prosecution called 4 witnesses. The defense, that's Wontumi's lawyers themselves, also called 5 witnesses, including Chairman Wontumi himself today. And the judge basically said that the prosecution was able to adduce sufficient evidence that meant that Chairman Wontumi would be convicted. When she was done reading the judgment, basically, so when she was done reading the judgment, the counsel in court today, who was holding a brief of Samuel Atachi, Charles Boachi, was on his feet, and he sought litigation. He sought to mitigate the process, in order for the court to reduce the number of years that Wontumi would get at this particular point. He did that. He was so nervous whilst trying to plead the court to reduce the number of years. His hands were shaky in that particular process. He did that after a few minutes, and then another person who also rose on his feet, he also mentioned the fact that he wanted to explain to the court that Chairman Wontumi has a lot of businesses, and for that reason, if Chairman Wontumi is eventually sentenced to so many years, that could affect all of that. But let's listen to one of the lawyers who was in court today, just to appreciate what he makes of this particular process.
We are around that. Because yes, I do appreciate that, yes, there are situations where the veil of incorporation could be lifted and directors could be held responsible. It is not in all situations that those things are applicable. So I'm sure it's an area his lawyers would have to look at and see if it will open up some areas of appeal for him. But I'm a bit worried and a bit sad. 20
years for an offense that the minimum is 15, maximum 25. The judge, I think, might have listened to your plea, don't you believe?
Probably she did, probably she did not. Because I was of the view that the minimum sentence was okay. Because I made a point that getting Wontumi out of the picture, that is incarcerating him, may affect a lot of things, especially his businesses, the number of people he employs and all that. So that was the appeal I was making to the court, that yes, the court has come to the conclusion and convicted Mr. Wontumi for all the offences. But in terms of the sentences, I mean, the court ought to consider his significance in society, especially the chain of businesses he owns. And I also made the point that currently we are struggling with a lot of youth employment. And if the court itself has established that Mr. Wontumi is the directing mind of all his businesses, it means it's very crucial to his businesses. So getting him away from his businesses in giving him such long sentence may negatively impact on the businesses, and the young people who get jobs through his businesses and all that, they'll come onto the streets as unemployed, adding to the huge numbers who are already on the streets with no employment. So that was the appeal I made to the court, that the court should consider this particular circumstance of Mr. Wontumi and probably give him the barest minimum of sentence. That was what I did. I don't.
The argument that it should be as a deterrent sentence to persons, especially the fight against illegal. Considering
the way
you see, I am not in any way encouraging anybody to go into illegal mining. And for me, the point I was making is that yes, Mr. Wontumi may have committed the offense, but it was the bigger picture I was looking at, because he was going to be sentenced anyway. So my mitigation was to reduce the sentence. That's all. It's not to put in a defense for whatever he might have done or not. Exactly.
What is your relationship with Wontumi?
I thought he would have been given the barest minimum.
What is your relationship?
I don't know him from anywhere. Probably we just share a name. I'm Bernard. He's Bernard. I have no relationship with Mr. Wontumi. Maybe because he's my namesake. But I only felt that as a lawyer, these things happen. It's not because it's Mr. Wontumi. There are times when you are in court and you feel like you need to probably intervene as a friend of the court. It is something we do out of ordinary practice. It is not because it was Mr. Wontumi. We have done this several times where we believe that we need to add our voice in mitigation. Remember, it is not against the conviction. It was just to intervene with the number of years he was going to be given. So it was against the sentencing that we were trying to mitigate, that the court should give him the barest minimum. It was not against his conviction. So it is not as if I did that to probably encourage illegal mining. No. It was just for the courts to understand that Mr. Wontumi is just not like you and myself. He owns a lot of businesses. So the court, I don't know if she considered that, but well, I'm sure his lawyers would advise him accordingly.
So that's
allow me to go.
Bernard
Oredu there talking to the press at the Accra High Court. Basically, he was one of the lawyers who was on his feet in criminal court and in fact, in his arguments in court, he told the judge that Wontumi has so many businesses and that if his sentence, if the years are too many, that could cripple some of the businesses, and many of the people who are currently employed by Tema Wontumi's companies may lose their jobs, among other things. But the judge, in her, concluding part of the judgment, said that this is to serve as a deterrent to other people who are currently, involved in illegal mining, and went ahead to give Wontumi, or to sentence Wontumi for 20 years. But it was very interesting, Mami, in court today. In fact, Wontumi himself, in the process of the judgment, whilst Audrey Kokovite was reading the judgment, so he was clearly, shaking his head repeatedly in apparent disapproval of some of the things that the judge was talking about, and he was also consistently looking at the people who were sitting in court and basically, laughing and all of that. So at the moment, it is clear that the court has now made its determination in this particular matter. And Mami, in fact, some of the interesting things that have happened in relation to this particular trial is that the case began in October, with the case management conference, among other things, and Yapiakubi was the lead counsel. He argued in court so many times for Chairman Wontumi, but something unexpected happened just before this particular judgment. Even in May, Mami, when the prosecution brought its witnesses, 4 witnesses, after concluding their evidence, presented their evidence in court, the Wontumi's counsel filed a submission of no case. They said this.
And it's midday and you're watching Joy News, and it's like listening, and you're also listening on Joy 99.7 FM and streaming live on all our social media platforms, myjoyonline.com, and our affiliates across the country. This afternoon, there's a heavy security presence at the court complex with prison officers and police personnel deployed after the Accra High Court just moments ago found the NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Entry Boisiako, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi, guilty on all 6 counts in the Summer Boy illegal mining case. The convictions relate to charges of facilitating unlicensed mining. Our reporters are at the court, and we have a live team coverage with the latest developments, the court's ruling, and reactions from both the prosecution and the defense. Do stay with us. Welcome back, and currently we have on Zoom joining us is Dr. Ken Ashigbe. He's convener for the Anti-Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. We're grateful for your time, Dr. Ashigbe, joining us this afternoon. And the news just coming in, Chairman Wontumi has been sentenced to 20 years imprisonment. What do you make of this?
Well, thank you very much. I would say that this is a good day for Ghana. This is a good day for the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, and then the Coalition Against Galamsey Ghana, and for all who want to see the back of this existential threat that confronts all of us as citizens. This is one case that the coalition petitioned the then Attorney General, then the IGP, and then personally myself, Martin Pebu, and 2 others. We also petitioned. We've been following through all this while. And I need to also commend the current Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. I remember the Easter Sunday of 2025. I was in my holy village of Chairman when he called that we needed, it was a press conference, an urgent press conference that we had to dash down to Accra. And again, he then had gone into look this petition that we had done and done some investigations, and then also laid his report to the ministers. I am happy, and I think we also need to commend the Attorney General for seeing this case through. And we also would want to commend the judge who sat on this case for also demonstrating some courage. As we say the commendations, we also need to commend the former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Jinapo. He was the first one to publicly declare that Akonta mining was involved in an illegality so far as the Tanonumere Forest Reserve was concerned. The then CEO for the Minerals Commission, Martin Eisi, also then confirmed it. Unfortunately, the Attorney General then and the police prosecutors did not prosecute, and we kept on pushing. It just tells you, the media, that if you keep on pushing this, we would get somewhere. But again, this is just one of several politically exposed persons and kingpins. You remember that in October 2024, then former president and then candidate for the NDC, the current president, His Excellency John Mahama, had indicated that the fight against Galamsey was going to be fruitless unless we're able to deal with the kingpin. So it is great that we're dealing with one kingpin. But what has happened to the other politically exposed persons who were named in the Professor Afrimpo Watson's report? What has happened to the current Attorney General, Pos Iyoko, to investigate 2 people who are currently in this current government? We've not heard anything from that. There's several politically exposed persons who are involved in Galamsey. There are DCs, MCs demonstrating either complicity or incompetence involved in Galamsey. I was in New Ebrim sometime this month. There was a chief who said, openly in the forum that about 80% of chiefs are involved in Galamsey. What is happening to all of these chiefs? There are several of them that we can name, that some of them that have come into the public space. We've heard Otumfuo himself made statements like that. We heard the former speaker, then in the past government, in Parliament, on the floor of Parliament, talk about the fact that there were some parliamentarians who were either, facilitating it, involved in it, and all of that. So this is just the beginning. If we really are going to deal with Galamsey decisively, then we need to make sure that a lot of big men who are marauding and parading the corridors of power, flaunting their riches, they are all candidates to also be, sentenced. And on the issue of the 20 years in jail, I would have wished that the judge would have given the maximum sentence of, 25 years and also added the maximum fine. That is because if you look at the law, it talks about either the fine or the custodial sentence or both. The reason why we need to be drastic in the sentencing of picking pings who are involved in Galamsey is that what they do is mass murder. If anybody had taken a gun and had shot anybody, we'll be asking for the maximum sentence. These people who are involved in this, the flood that happened in Samaraboy, the recent flood, part of it is because of the issues of Galamsey. People are dying from kidney diseases, renal diseases are happening, children are being deformed, pregnant women, are dying from stillbirth and all of that. And this is what these people do. They're economic saboteurs. The challenge they are imposing upon us in terms of our agricultural product, our cocoa and all of that have heavy metals in them and all of that.
All right.
These, nation wreckers that ought to be punished.
All right. Now, hold on for me. We'll come right back to you. But let's head to Kumasi, where my colleague Nana Yaljima is standing by the NPP headquarters. Nana Yaljima, what's happening there?
Hasta Lodge in Kumasi, and this is where the New Patriotic Party is holding its vetting for regional executives. Due to this reason, there are lots of party supporters all around, and this is where a lot of them heard the news about Chairman Wontumi's sentencing of 20 years for illegal mining. And a lot of the people that you see here are not happy. A lot of them are not excited. They are down. Their spirits are down, and I understand that it's affecting the event that is being held here, that is the vetting process itself. I would want to engage some of the party faithfuls, especially the leadership of the NPP in the Ashanti region, to gauge their mood on the process or the court, on what happened in court today. There's an aspiring communications officer here, which I would want to speak to him. Doc, hello. Welcome to Joy News.
Thank you very much.
I can see you came here excited for your vetting, but it seems what just happened in court today has got a lot of party people talking about the process, and others are not happy with how things turn out. What is your impression about what has happened the past few days?
Within the party, it's picking up of nomination form, particularly me, contesting to become the first elected communications officer for Ashanti region. We've returned the nomination form. Today we are here for vetting. I am confident that it will end well. I was not aware that there's going to be judgment on Wontumi's case, particularly that one relating to mining. So the news has come as a shock to me. It's a moment of mixed feeling because he is still the Ashanti Regional Chairman for New Patriotic Party. Yes. He has not resigned. And that he is the leader of the party within the region, even within the context of the new reforms. So it's a mixed feeling. The second thing is that it's a shock. I hear 20 years jail term. And that's a lot for a young man who just turned 50 years. I am not a lawyer and not a legal person, so it's difficult for me to set out any legal arguments. But I will want to think that there is opportunity for an appeal, and that appeal will be done expeditiously. I don't know whether he will have to be in prison whilst the appeal is pending, or there could be an intervention where the appeal will be heard immediately for certain other outcomes. He is my regional chairman, and over the time that he has been the regional chairman, me particularly, he has given me a lot of opportunity to serve the party. And it's the reason why I'm saying it's deep mixed feeling. I'm saddened by the outcome of the court case against Chairman Wontumi, and I'm praying that the legal brains, the legal luminaries of the party and beyond will sit immediately and consider the next option. Until then, my feeling this morning or this afternoon is one of a mixed feeling. Mixed feeling because I'm happy I've gone through the process, and that very soon I will be declared properly qualified to contest, and I'm very optimistic about that. And the mixed feeling, the negative part is the news that Chairman Wontumi has been convicted.
So now the expectation is that there will be a review process or a process to go on an appeal, so that if possible, Wontumi could be granted freedom or reduce his sentence for him.
We are aware that Agrada went to jail not long ago. While she was in jail, there was an appeal, and that she has come home. And there are instances of that, and that's what, now that verdict has come, that is the option that I am expecting to happen, so that it will not be jail for 20 years for Chairman Wontumi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chebrobe. So that was Ishak Chebrobe, and he's aspiring to be communications officer for the New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region. Behind me is Chairman Akins, and he is the NPP chairman for Bosomtwe constituency. He is the chairman for the home constituency of Chairman Wontumi, and he is the man who took over from Chairman Wontumi after he left the position of constituency chairmanship at the Bosomtwe constituency. Chairman Akins, welcome to Joy News. I can see, since I got here, grief written all over your face. How do you feel?
I feel very, very bad, honestly. I'm not anticipating this news, at least this afternoon. So I'm not all that well. Let me just put it in a short, because I'm actually hit with this sentence that I'm hearing, because I was at the waiting room. I just came up and I was met with this story, so I'm not comfortable at all.
People may not know the relationship between yourself and Chairman Wontumi. For me, I know you both, and I know that you took over from Chairman Wontumi as chairman of Ejoso constituency, Bosomtwe constituency, and since then there have been some closeness or good relationship between the two of you. Tell us, how was the relationship like?
As you've really said, he's a very good friend of mine, and even a brother. Let me put it in there. So I met Wontumi for some, let's say 20 years ago. 20 years ago, and then outside even political issues. When we've worked together, we've been very close until we all decided to get into serious political, business. So we planned, and he entered as a Bosomchi chairman, whilst I was the constituency vice chairman. So we play along with this, our political staff, until he decided to come to contest at the region. So we planned everything, and he was successfully at the region. For the first time, we won the election in 2016. I became the substantive at where he left. So we've been so close that when you see Chairman Wontumi, then of course you see Chairman Akins. So as you rightly said, we've been close, and I did never for once anticipate what I'm hearing now. That is why I'm a little bit uncomfortable to at least speak to the media. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Now, as I said, Chairman Akins happens to be the Bosomchi NPP chairman in the Ashanti region, and he was a close ally to Chairman Wontumi, or he is a close ally to Chairman Wontumi, and you can see he's down, he's not happy with what has happened so far, and he thinks that there is need for something to be done about the conviction so far. Nana Nsenche is here with me, and he is a leading member of the NPP in the Ashanti region. He was once a member of the regional executives in the Ashanti region, and and you worked closely with Chairman Wontumi. How do you feel about this news?
Oh, it's a very bad news anyway. You can see everybody here, those who are here to go for vetting, and we that we have done with our vetting, we are not all happy. You know what? We are not all that happy, and even the 20 years sentence is too much. So I think I'm pleading with President John Mahama that he should temper mercies with the justice, and then he do something about it.
You think this is going to affect the rebuilding of the NPP in the Ashanti region and the party and the national as whole?
No, this is rather going to ginger us, because we need to get him out. So we have to come at all costs. So if the delegate give me the mandate as a regional affairs vice chairman again, I'm going to make sure I work very tirelessly, as I did to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, so that when we come to power, we can give him presidential pardon.
But don't you think that it's about time that the party or Chairman Wontumi's lawyer considers, appealing the judgment?
No. For that one is on course. Yes, every judgment is appealable, so they have to. But they can do their part, and we can also do our part. So they are going to, if they have the opportunity to appeal for the judgment, that is so good. But we are going to do our part as our party. Do you think that if MPP was in power or is in power, could this happen to Chairman Wontumi? No, it's not going to happen to Wontumi. So this is the reason why that we have to work very hard and harder for MPP to come to 2029. Then we can get him out.
That's Nana Kwabena Senche, and he happens to be the first vice chair for the NPP in the Ashanti region. And according to him, there is need for them to work together as a party, get back power, and if possible, through that, they get Chairman Wontumi out with a presidential pardon. But even before they think about presidential pardon...
And that's Nana Yaljima coming to us live from the Ashanti Regional NPP headquarters in Kumasi. My colleague, Kweku Asante, is also with me in the studio. Kweku has questions for Dr. Ken Ashigbe.
Yep. Dr. Ken Ashigbe, the big question now is what happens? Chairman Wontumi is obviously going to go in there and spend 20 years subject to whatever appeal he files and whatever the outcome that will be. But also the bigger picture of whether or not this will become a certain, idea and in renewing our illegal mining fight. We know that the Attorney General wrote to Yoko to investigate 2 NDC officials alleged to have been involved in illegal mining. Not much has been heard. You've already said here that you expected the maximum 25 years. There are big people behind illegal mining, bankrolling it and benefiting big time from it. Do you think that this conviction may serve as a renewal of our fight against illegal mining?
Well, interestingly, we did, as a coalition, we have not even adverted our mind to the fact that the judgment was today. So this morning, we had a press conference where we were dealing with kind of a response to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Accountability Series and the points that had been made. And so we really clearly made the point about the fact that there are arrests being made, but you find out that most of those arrests are just the points. We are not dealing with the kingpins in this, challenge that we find ourselves in. And so you would want to ensure that on the back of this judgment that has coincided with our press statement, first thing is also for us journalists to realize the fact that if we continue putting the pressure, and we also to citizens who should also bear in mind that their sovereignty resides with them, and we are able to keep on pushing, we would get to, be able to ensure that these campaigns who are involved in Galamsey, we need a lot more of the journalists to be doing a lot more of the investigative pieces. So again, Erastus has just done a piece around a water body that has been destroyed. There's one Richard Entry who's been mentioned in it. Our hope is that the Ashanti Regional Minister, who mentioned that he knew that the gentleman, said he owned the concession. I have had confirmation from the head of the RCOMS there that says that they've not issued any permit for any cooperative mining happening there. So that person is a walking illegality. It's a suspected criminal. He should be arrested, investigated, and prosecuted. So I'm just hoping that we'll use this. And again, it won't happen naturally, We will use this as an impetus to be able to whip up again the push, because unfortunately the impunity has not died down. If you drive from Bonso through to Osino, and you get to the Yinem bypass, you see Galamsey happening hidden in clear sight. You see vehicles that are parked by the side of the road. The question you ask yourself is the MC or the DC in that area, the police commander in that area, the BNI persons in that area. Don't they see these things happening? Why are they, are they waiting for the Minister for Land and Natural Resources to come from Accra or the President to come from Accra? Why are they not dealing with that? And so these people themselves are either complicit or incompetent. And in both ways, they cannot be representatives of the IGP or the President in the communities that they serve, in the jurisdiction that they serve in. So we'll be hoping that this would create, the impetus for us to demand a lot more. As you said yourself, the Yoko report, we need to be able to see that. And all the people who are involved in Galamsey, it does not matter whose ass is God. Once you are implicated in it, you need to be punished.
We'll take you pretty shortly to the High Court complex where this sentence has been handed down. I mean, we'll get to see what is happening there. Are there political party supporters massing up there as usual when it comes to the arrest of politically exposed persons? We'll get to see all of that pretty shortly with Fatal Bayaga and Michelle Lati, who are on the ground for us to report in on what has been happening. Chairman Wontumi, the NPP Ashanti Regional Chairman, and who is also gunning for the party's national leadership position, has been convicted on all the counts related to him having to do with illegal mining, facilitation of illegal mining and all of that, but also assignment of rights without authorization, and convicted and jailed for 20 years. Michelle Lati, what is the situation now at the High Court complex? Are the supporters massing up? What is the mood there as we speak?
The lawyers were now coming out. Now the place is very calm because Chairman Wontumi has been taken out by the prison service. Fatal has been monitoring the situation, speaking also to the legal counsel. So, unfortunately, we've not seen any supporters of the NPP or supporters of Chairman Wontumi around this particular area. We'll do our checks at different areas. But let me speak to Fatal. He has been inside the courtroom. Which people were on grounds to represent Chairman Wontumi since his lead counsel is not around?
Michelle, so we are well aware that at the moment Samuel Atachia is out of the jurisdiction, and today the person who was in court holding the brief of the defense is Charles Watson, and in fact flanked by 3 other lawyers as the make the arguments in court. And today basically because in a letter that we now know came from them, they said that they wanted the court to adjourn this particular proceedings to a day after Wednesday, 22nd July, in order that their lead counsel will be back to the country, and then he will, move the motion for the deferment of in fact, they were seeking some interpretations as far as the Minerals and Mining Act is concerned. So they were waiting for their lead counsel to come to court and then move that particular motion. The court, in fact, according to the trial judge, Audrey Kokufite, who has been handling this case for a very long time, since October last year, basically in her the letter brought by the counsel for Chairman Wontumi seeking an adjournment, to a day after, Wednesday and all of that. In fact, she described it as incompetent and moot because, in her point of view, Michelle, she said that, some attachment. Right, when the court adjourned the proceedings to today, July 22, to deliver this particular judgment, he never said anything. The court went ahead to do all of that, and now he's now writing to the court, telling the court that he wouldn't be around and all of that. The judge simply, dismissed that particular motion, and then the constitutional interpretation aspect as well. They wanted the court to basically, refer the, they said that some sections of the Minerals and Mining Act are, vague, overbroad, and they think that they needed some interpretations. The judge dismissed that as well, and then went ahead with the judgment. And in fact, in her opinion before the court, she said that Article 1911 of the Minerals and Mining Act is quite clear, and there's no need for any interpretation, and went ahead to read the judgment. And Michelle, the judgment alone took more than an hour. She had to take time to read almost every provision. Also used judicial precedents in order to back her ruling, among other things. And then when she read all the counts and then found Wontumi, in fact, even before that, she spoke about the witnesses that came to court to testify for both the prosecution and then the defense. And the prosecution brought 4 witnesses, and these witnesses gave their testimonies before the court, basically firming up the evidence presented by the prosecution. And then Michelle, the defense, Wontumi himself was among the witnesses, and then the former Western Regional Minister, Dr. Kwaku Mensah, and also former Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister Mirakuduka were among his witnesses. They all came to court, they testified and all of that. And in fact, when the prosecution was done with his, testimonies before the court, or when the witnesses finished their testimonies, then the Wontumi's lawyers wrote to the court and said that the prosecution or the state simply did not have any case against us because they've not been able to establish any prima facie as far as the case was concerned. But the judge again, Audrey Kokufite, simply dismiss that particular submission of no case as well, and then the case proceeded. That was when Wontumi's lawyers then came in to bring their witnesses and as far to testify before the court. And you see, there have been very interesting developments in relation to this particular case. And in fact, the most interesting things happened this year when Wontumi's former lead counsel and the Apiakubi simply said that he didn't want to continue to be the lead counsel. The reason, he said that the courts were getting too personal with him, and for that reason, anytime he makes arguments, he makes statements in court, they are simply dismissed, among other things. And that he needed to step aside. In fact, that particular step, Michelle, he came to the court with a motion. He brought a motion to the court and said that I want to, leave the position or to leave the job as the lead counsel for Chairman Wontumi. Then the judge was simply like, did the court give you the contract? No, you had a conversation with Chairman Wontumi and he employed you as his lead counsel. So the thing is between you and your employer and not the court. This one is simply strange. In fact, the court threw that out, right? So the next day, and the Apiakubi then came with a letter saying that I have stopped because employment is not compulsory. And he simply, stepped aside from that particular case. And that very day, Wontumi released a 1-page document saying that he had appointed Atachia as his new lead counsel.
Right.
And interestingly, Atachia, when he took over, as experienced as he is, and he's also the lead counsel for Edubuahen, he basically told the court that I would need more time to be able to familiarize myself with the proceedings before the court, and then I will be able to file. That would guide me to file my written, address, right?
Yeah.
And when he said that, the judgment was initially scheduled for July 3, the judge, granted him time and said, okay, based on what you said, I have decided to uphold it, and then maybe then we will return on July 20 for the judgment. The court then told them to bring their written addresses on July 13, which they did, Michelle. So basically, it was quite strange to see another letter or a motion that they wanted another deferment
today
to the Supreme Court, and then the judge simply, just like I said earlier, dismissed it and described it as moot.
So as the sentence was being pronounced today, you were in court. What did the mood look like on the faces of the legal team for Chairman Wontumi and himself?
Michelle, very interestingly, Charles Boateng was simply shaking in court. I saw his demeanor. In fact, when the judge was about to make the final judgment, the lawyer was on his feet and he tried to plead for a mitigation, right? And in doing that, Michelle, he was clearly shaking. His voice became very weak as he moved that particular motion. So basically, there was some kind of tense among the lawyers of Chairman Wontumi and the other parties or the other people who had come to support him. Chairman Wontumi himself was, smiling, but when I looked at him, it seemed he wasn't really impressed with what was happening, because throughout the proceedings, Michelle, what happened was that Chairman Wontumi was repeatedly shaking his head in apparent disapproval of some of the things that the judge was talking about.
Right.
So that clearly shows that he wasn't, quite excited with some of the things that were said in court. And interestingly, whilst all of that was happening, then we saw prison officers. One of them walked into the courtroom. He was standing just at the door to the courtroom, criminal court 4, while others were stationed outside. So that, in fact, brought even more, tension, to the defense counsel, because they now realized that where it was getting to was looking a bit dangerous.
So you have been engaging with some of the legal, those who are representing Chairman Wontumi today. What have they been telling you?
Basically, some of them said that this particular sentence is quite harsh. They think that based on the evidence presented by the witnesses and then the defense, they clearly believe that the court was a bit harsh in this particular decision. And in fact, one of them basically said that he's a member of, he said that they will, consider an appeal. He doesn't want to say appeal, but he said that they would have an engagement from here, and then they would consider, something of the sort in order to, in a way, he doesn't tell us whether they want to appeal the sentencing or the conviction and all of that, or the years, slapped on Chairman Wontumi, or the conviction. Basically, that is what they are telling us. Clearly, they say that they're not quite happy with this particular decision by the court. One lawyer who was in court today, he, in fact, when Chairman Wontumi's lawyer was on his feet, trying to plead for the mitigation, he drew the attention of the court. In fact, he was confidently, trying to catch the eye of the judge, because he said he wanted to say something very important as far as this case is concerned. Because, in fact, the lawyer for Chairman Wontumi himself, in that mitigation, argument before the court, basically said that Wontumi is a family man. Michelle. He also said that Wontumi has, a lot of business, among other things, and for that reason, the court should be considerate. In fact, he also said that Wontumi has been religiously appearing before the court. He cooperated with the court and all of that, so it would be unfair for the court to, give him like so many years. So he prayed to the court that the court should temper, should temper justice with mercy, should temper mercy with justice or something, because Wontumi has been obedient to the court among other things. So when he was just about landing, and then this man Bernard Oredu was on his feet, he drew the attention of the judge and said that he wanted to say a few things. The judge granted him the opportunity. As he looked closely at this guy, another guy said, Chairman Wontumi operates so many businesses. Right. He's a businessman. He employs thousands, if not millions of people across the country. And in fact, if Wontumi is sentenced, because he is the man in the middle of all of that, his ideas and all of that are supporting the businesses to operate. These businesses will collapse, right? And if that happens, it would worsen the country's unemployment situation. And therefore told the judge that she should, be considerate in her ruling. Do you know what the judge said?
No, you tell me.
The judge was simply like, this is to serve as a deterrent to other people, because environmental crime is very serious.
Fatal Bayaga speaking there from the High Court complex, where we understand now Chairman Wontumi, the NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman, the proprietor of Akonta Mining Limited, who has just been convicted of illegal mining offences and convicted and sentenced for 20 years, has been whisked away to now begin serving his sentence immediately. He's now been sent to prison. Ken Ashigbe is still with us. He leads the Ghana Chamber of Mines, but also one of the foremost fighters against illegal miners in this country. So, Mr. Ashigbe, one of the reasons why this prosecution started, we know the state had to do its work, the investigation. There was a Rastos report. There was also the petition that you sent to the Attorney General. So part of it is being worked on now, and there's results on this. What kind of pressure are you going to bring to bear on government to resolve all the other aspects? There is a Professor Frimpong Boateng report that is gathering dust on the shelf now. There is a number of Erastus' report. There are a number of issues that you've raised in your petition to the Attorney General. Now that there's results for at least one of them, what is going to be the strategy going forward for all the other cases?
Thanks. And it's good you mentioned this. When I was talking about the commendation, I forgot the person who started all of it. It was Erastus' report on Akonta Mining being involved in Galamsey, in the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve, as well as even, the concessions that they had, the impact that they were having on the Tano River as well. And so Erastus needs to be commended. And you're spot on. He continues to do it. He is one of the main voices. And again, when we had our press conference today, I was, again, as convener for the coalition, I was oblivious of the fact that today was when the Akonta Mining judgment was going to come. But we've issued a press statement that catalogs several things that are still outstanding. And again, so the issues raised about the Professor Frimpong Boateng's report and those who are involved in it, about the issues of the Attorney General's commissioning Iyoko to investigate who are in the current government, about the fact that the president himself says that there are some members of his party who are also involved in the Galamsey, about the fact that if you take Erastus' current report around the shooting in the Bekwai area, there is a gentleman called Richard Entry that the Ashanti Regional Minister has named in a Facebook post, who claims to be the owner of those working in that space. I have personally confirmed with the head of the ARCOM's desk that they have not given any license to anybody to mine in a wetland. So that gentleman, for example, is a walking illegality, and if the Ashanti Regional Minister knows of him, he should cause his arrest and ensure that he also is brought to book. If you drive currently from Bonsu through the Enyinem bypass to Osino, in clear sight, you see Galamsey happening. The question is that those DCs, MCs in these communities, the police commanders, the regional, the divisional commanders, are they waiting for the Minister for Lands to come from Accra, or His Excellency the President or the IGP to come? all of these people also need to be arrested for their complicity. If not their complicity, then they are incompetent. They ought to be fired. There's several, there's some work that was done by Erasmus about the Bosomtwe area, for example. The people who are mining in those communities, who are the people behind them. All of these people need to be arrested. And so there are other issues where in our win, for example, a certain member of parliament was accused by the chiefs of the traditional area of being complicit in Galamsey. Nothing has happened to that. We've not had. So there's several places. So our appeal in our press statement is for His Excellency the President to say that we should take this as an impetus and investigate everybody who has been involved in Galamsey and make sure that we bring them to book. We are urging His Excellency to remember, the point he made in October 2024, that if you don't deal with the kingpins, then it is fruitless. And so the only way we are going to get people to stop this is that if other kingpins who are seeing, Akonta Mining and its directors, go to jail for 20 years. And I'm hoping that the statement that was made by the MPP person that when they come into power, they are going to come freeing people. That's not what is going to happen. We hope that politicians don't think that they come to power to come and grant pardons, to their own. Anybody who's done wrong has done wrong. And so it's the same fate that we're hoping that this current government will not shield its own party apparatchiks and party people who are involved in this inimical, endeavor that endangers our economy, endangers our health, endangers our national security. It is important that this becomes, an impetus for renewed pressure. And I'm hoping that the media as well, other media houses will join, the likes of you, the likes of Erastus, to say that we need to do a lot more investigative reportage. Let's go back and catalog all those we have mentioned and find out those who are involved in it. If anybody should drive to the engineering place I'm talking about, you see vehicles that are parked there. When I was going to Nkoko, I saw that. When I was returning, I saw that already. If even we just got the registration numbers of those vehicles, we would be able to tell those who are involved in this thing that is damaging us. And so that based on this, we would be able to ensure that those who want to do mining do it legally, and the artisanal and small-scale miners have a role to play. As Ghanaians, traditionally, that's what we have done. We mine like that. Our forebears have mined like that without endangering, damaging our environment. Let's train them to be able to mine properly. The issues that happened in Samraboy, the coalition has been talking about that. We're not prophets to know that Samraboy was going to drown. How many people have we not lost in this drowning event? So when you see people see it and they say that Akonta Mining, Wontumi employed several people, are we saying the lives of those who have lost their lives in Galamsey? Are we saying that they don't deserve to live? That is the enormity of the challenge that is before us. As people, we should stop coming to the aid of people when they are found guilty. It's the reason why we suffer some of these challenges that we suffer.
Thank you very much. Kanash be the head of the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, one of the big voices when it comes to our fight against illegal mining. And he said that he thinks that the judge should have actually given the maximum sentence for this, and the judge gave 20 years from what we have seen so far now. So that is the situation with...
PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.